Hello everyone, my name is Mrs Ingram and I am the Head of Department for Religious Studies. I just wanted to come in here to talk to you for a couple of minutes about what the Religious Studies GCSE entails, the exam, and kind of the topics in which you will be learning if you choose to take it for GCSE over the next 2 years. So the exam itself is 100% written paper and there is no coursework elements to this GCSE. You'll sit 3 papers, 2 of which you will sit together. And the first 2 papers are around religion and theology. So you'll look at Christianity and you'll look at Islam. You'll look at both of their beliefs, their teachings and their practices, much like you've done so far in Key Stage 3, but just in a lot more depth. Paper 3 is thematical studies, where you'll look at 4 themes and you will look at the philosophy and the ethics behind those different areas. So for example, you're going to look at relationships and families, and you'll look at the different types of relationships that there are, what's accepted in some religions and not accepted in the others, in particular within Christianity. You'll look at same-sex relationships, contraception, etc. Then you'll move on to religion and life, which will go through kind of the ethical dilemmas behind abortion and euthanasia, and you'll really get into debating whether they are morally right or morally wrong. Thirdly, you'll move on to the existence of God, which is a philosophy-based unit of work where you'll be studying arguments for why God exists and arguments for why God does not exist, and looking at kind of the philosophical arguments behind them. And then lastly, you'll move on to religion, peace and conflict, which is about the morality behind war and answering some big questions about what happens at war and whether that is right or wrong. So for example, a question that you might debate is, if a soldier kills someone else at war, is that considered to be murder or not? So what kind of skills are involved in GCSE RE? So you really need to be able to understand, interpret and evaluate texts, sources of wisdom and authority like the Bible, and that's all really important to be successful at GCSE. But also what you need to be able to is to apply the skills of analysis, creativity, and most importantly to be able to argue and debate the strengths and weaknesses of the content being taught. So you need to be able to have a good kind of arguments for and arguments against, and be able to put that down on paper. Okay, I'm just going to give you Okay, and I now really would like you to watch this video, and the ideas and challenges that are faced in the world that are discussed in here are kind of some of the topics and discussion points that we'll be having in lessons also.
We are interrupting our normal programmes to bring you an important announcement. If you've just joined us, we're just looking at pictures from the World Trade Center in New York, which is ablaze as a result of a plane crash, a plane flying in low. To UN landmark climate report that issued a code red for humanity. Experts agree that without big reductions in global carbon dioxide emissions, the world cannot win the fight against climate change.
You all come to us young people for hope. How dare you?
Until today, the so-called God particle, the key to our understanding of the universe, existed only in theory, but not anymore. Collecting data like this, scientists at CERN have announced the discovery with 99.999% certainty that the Higgs boson does exist, the so-called God particle.
Now, he says he's now left with a choice of waiting to die of natural causes or starving himself to death. Tony Nicklinson suffers from locked-in syndrome. His healthy mind is trapped inside a body which no longer functions. He wanted the law on murder to be changed so that doctors or loved ones could help him die. But today, the High Court ruled against him.
The brave 14-year-old girl was directly targeted by the Taliban last week, who stormed her bus and shot her in the head as she came home from school. Her crime, fighting for the rights of all girls to an education.
Family unit is what is going on in our society.
They're meant to consent, kids. They're meant to consent. shot. Prosecutors saying the victims were targeted because they were gay or transgender.
Employers are now able to stop their staff from wearing religious headdresses as well as other religious clothes and symbols, anything from the Christian crucifix to a Hindu bindi.
We are coming every year to bring the people to see, to witness by themselves, in their own eyes, and to see the barracks, to see the places that millions were murdered, in order to say never again.
There's been international condemnation of China after the BBC reported claims that women in so-called re-education camps for the Uyghur Muslim minority are being raped and tortured.
Bobby Joe Long, who murdered 8 women in 1984, was executed tonight at Florida State Prison. He was pronounced dead at 6:55 p.m.
250,000 people protested against tightening rules against the unvaccinated. They say liberty is at stake. It's their body, their choice.
Well, now the Advertising Standards Authority is to crack down on ads that feature stereotypical gender roles. A review carried out by the ASA has suggested that these commercials have a cost.
The church backed a proposal to allow gay marriages to take place in its churches by just 1 vote.
The motion is therefore carried.
Dramatic new video tonight capturing the moments just after 2 gunmen stormed the offices of the satirical newspaper Charlie Hebdo last week in Paris.
With the statue of a 17th century slave trader pulled down in Bristol.
After a 34-year wait, the UK has had its first FGM conviction.
Sponsoring a bill that could have women facing the death penalty for having an abortion.
Unprecedented and even irreversible changes are happening to this planet.
Britain's taste for cheap fashion could be affecting marine pollution.
As ever, it's the civilians who are paying the highest price. The UN has expressed fears of a full-scale war.
Birth control for men.
Shocking regime of abuse.
What we have documented has shocked us.
Now, some of those things that you watched are uncomfortable to watch. But if you are someone that is sitting there with a strong opinion about some of those things, or would like to discuss and debate the things and the challenges that are happening across our world, then I would recommend taking RE as a GCSE. So just to summarise, GCSE RE is not compulsory, it is an option. You do not need to be religious to take the GCSE, you just need to be willing to understand different views of the world, the challenges that are happening in our world, and be willing to debate them. You'll have 3 lessons over 2 weeks, so the same as what you do now, and you'll be assessed with 3 exams at the end of year 11, which you will do in 2 sittings. And just to leave you with my biggest tip for you when taking your options, it can be an overwhelming process for many of you, but what I urge you to do is select the subjects that you are most interested in and the ones that you enjoy, because you're going to be studying these for the next 2 years. So it's really important you pick ones that you are going to be engaged in and you're going to actively want to work hard in. If you have any more questions on this GCSE, then please come find me or Miss Bella, and we'll be happy to discuss this with you more.